power plants, water distribution centers, things like that. If those go down, it's a big issue, right? But the thing is that people are only typically, of concern of that when it's on the news, right? Or hey, I turn on my faucet and I can't get water, right?
Welcome back to another installment of the Next Gen Case Study Series. On today's episode, we have Alexander Cobblah, who is the Chief Executive Officer and founder of Cage Okami Cybersecurity Services, a company specializing in advanced cybersecurity solutions such as penetration testing, threat emulation, and compliance audits. Alexander has over 17 years of experience in the information security field and is committed to delivering tailored and transparent cyber risk management strategies to businesses of all sizes, which is why we're excited to have him on the show. Alexander, welcome to the program.
Pleasure. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, I'm particularly excited to get into some of the work that you're doing with Cage Okami. But before we get too far into it, Alexander, I'd love to start with
Yeah,
a quick little background on who you are, where you came from, and how you found yourself becoming the founder of Cage Okami.
yeah, absolutely. So I can give you the long and short version. So let's see.
Couple of minutes, so we got some time to get into your experience if we
Couple of
could.
minutes. All right, I give you the slight elevator pitch of a long elevator. So, come from humble beginnings. The reason I actually got into the field as a whole was my father's restaurant burned down, unfortunately, a long time ago. So I got into IT sales. Went back to college to pursue more computer science type objectives and topics. And I met somebody who had finished their last deployment with the army and said, "Hey, I have a family and I have one job at night. I was off attending one job 30 a day." And decided, hey, you've helped me out with school, so you should take the night job. I think it'd be good for you. So I said, hey, I wasn't doing anything at the time. So I said, let's do it. So next thing you know, I end up super, super deep in the government work, doing blue team, doing incident response, incident handling, threat intelligence, and analysis, and then compliance, which later on would impact my career as well from that perspective. And so that's where I got my grounding in terms of understanding what to look for in terms of IOCs from an attacker perspective, through the lens of someone who's defending, right? Got, a very much a good grasp of that concept, decided, hey, I want to go into the offensive sphere. Got some mentors who are I'm grateful for to this day. And so was then thrown into a position in the sense I was given 9 days to prove myself. I was a junior on the force. And so they said, hey, we're seniors. You have 90 days to get this done or that's it. And so, I just put up, shut up. So from that point, decided to dive straight into pen testing as a whole and expert development. I basically just locked in for 90 days, my house, didn't go out, didn't do anything outside of work and just lab, took my OCP, learn a little more concepts in terms of programming, Python and Ruby. And I just pressed forward, learned everything cyber from an offensive perspective. And then, my work in gives you pen tester, then became a senior expert development professional, and then moved on to do other ventures in the course of my career. And so, I've worked for a multitude of vendors within 30 different industries across the board, luxury real estate, medical, Fed Civ, military, aeronautical and space engineering, manufacturing, just various industries, and been fortunate there. And so we aggregate kind of the rest of my career. It all led up to this in terms of, and I think this is the next logical step was to create a company based on what I've learned across the board. And from a customer service perspective, tried to see where I could find not necessarily a niche in the market because, a lot of people do pen testing, a lot of people do. So what makes you different? It's typically what you see people ask from a business perspective. And it comes down to customer feedback. And so a huge critical core component of my entity is taking regular feedback from customers and incorporating that into custom tailored deliverables and reports that help, different entities find kind of deltas in their own defensive mechanisms or in terms of teams, while also ensuring that deliverables are timely, efficient, and that they're getting full understanding as to what vulnerabilities do exist within their potential network. So that's kind of where this whole thing has amassed from.
Yeah, very colorful experience, especially just in the different verticals. I can imagine that there's a variety of lessons to be kind of learned along the way. When it comes to being the founder, I know that, at least in my own experience, initially, when you kind of start something, you have to take care of all of the moving parts of the machine as you are building things, right?
Yes.
And as you evolve, you start to create roles and you can hand off or delegate some of that stuff. I wonder if you could share a little bit about your experience in how your role has evolved from founder to now, or sorry, founder and operator, I guess, to now, where you're at with the business.
Yeah, absolutely. So a very tight knit crew. When it comes to bookkeeping and the beginnings, starting entities are extremely hard. I think anyone just anything else is they've been either given opportunities or things have been funneled to them. But you're the maker breaker, so you're the one to, if you don't, make the sales. I mean, that's it. I mean, you're not eating, so it can be a very gnarly environment very quickly. So overall, things you'll see, even things such as like tool acquisition, budgeting, clientele, market research, advertising is a huge thing too. Making sure that you have that market present, and the phases of advertising are also a huge thing that I wasn't privy to, all the time. So understanding, just general tips that I've learned. Having brand awareness is the biggest thing, because if nobody knows about you, they can't actually come and see you, right? And oftentimes reputation would be the second phase of that, right? Is going to, now that everybody kind of seen your ads, has seen, it typically takes what I've told about 7 times of somebody seeing a specific ad for them to make a decision in their head as to whether or not they want to engage or not. And so to be able to start to decipher, um, what the customer actually is seeing and then the psychology behind it, I think this has helped me grow as a whole, and my entity as a whole. And I think from a structural perspective, we're looking at um, just constantly evolving when it comes to TTPs, training, and understanding the new ventures that people may, and the new, as you mentioned, verticals that people are not going into, right? Once again, a lot of people, network pen testing, web pen testing, wireless, mobile, these are the tenants, right? Everybody's doing them. But what is it that may be able to help more advanced SaaSes or businesses when it comes to understanding their vulnerabilities? There could be people who have Kubernetes, right? And if you don't understand those technologies, you're not used to them, so it's just trying to get ahead of all of that. Um, it's our goal. So
Yeah, there's this weird thing that's happening right now in the whole world of marketing as it relates to the attribution of where a lead comes from and then where the lead makes their decision. And to
yeah,
your point, there's like 7 times that that person has to interact with you or your business or your brand before they're
right.
in a position to make a decision. And so there's a couple of guys out there right now. I think Chris Walker's one of them, talking about the dark funnel, right? There's so much stuff that we can do on the front end where it's like, oh, hey, here's the brand, here's some content, here's something useful, a blog post, a social media
Right.
post, a bunch of things.
Read this. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and so at some point that person's going to make a decision. And here's the weird thing that we do is if they've clicked off of the last click that they did was from Google search when they were trying to find you
Mhm.
again. Oh, well, now that's the attribution, and we put all of our dollars and cents into Google and ignore all of the other
Right.
parts of it, and then all of a sudden the funnel
Mhm.
breaks. And so there's this like kind of um there's this thing or activity that's happening in the background of our marketing efforts that we're not
Mhm.
really paying, I think, enough attention to um,
I agree.
in
Yep.
that whole business development model of how we're acquiring our customers. So walk me through then for you and your business. What does the customer experience map look like from that kind of point of
Yes.
discovery? Where do they find you?
Yes.
How do they engage with you? Once they do, how do you kind of track and measure that and then make a deal out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, initially, our company is heavily based on word of mouth, just, a reputation, I think, from a non-founder perspective and from founder perspective is huge, right? So, honesty is just general core tenets of being the human at the end of the day, just to drive business, for us. I think that in going into market and going to the digital aspect of things, typically what happens is that you either have people come to the site, other companies are referring other companies to the site, or sometimes I get direct calls. Really, it happens that way as well, or either through my email or various contacts. Sometimes people just book through Calendly. They can just go to calendly.com/Cage Okami and schedule a free consultation. That's our big thing, is that we want to ensure that we're the right fit for you. But then also, we don't want to waste your time as well. Time is precious, time is money. And so, if we can help you in that regard, and our model fits you, perfect. If not, there are tons of other vendors that may be able to help you in that specific regard. But let's say hypothetically someone's gone through the process of either consultation or through emails that, hey, we're looking at X, Y, Z. We then have a very quick turnaround in terms of quoting and general services descriptions, right? And so each one of our services has a very vivid kind of catalog pages of work. online, which you can see, hey, rating engagement may involve these things, and this is different between this and that. We also want to educate our customers as well. Oftentimes we hear, this red team, we hear pen test, we hear all these terminologies. However, nobody actually tells you what are these things, right? And so we've created actually some blog posts there, on our site as well, to give customers or pending customers the opportunity to understand these technologies, whether they go with us or not, right? We want to better the industry as a whole, and make sure that we are doing our part, as security partners. To go back to your question, post that, quoting process, if they want to go forward, we begin the engagement process. We have just a real quick discussion in terms of what to expect. We have diagrams and graphics that we give to make things easier for people who are non-technical to understand and see, because we do want to cater to those individuals as well. And then we go through if it's a pen test, we go through the penetration testing process. We have specific protocols to ensure that everybody's aware that there's no gotchas, and that there is a clean and appropriate test that's done. And then we have, a debrief, which is typically optional if a customer does want to engage with this. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they say, hey, I just want to see where I'm at. And then, we'll go from that. We'll be in contact. And then post that, deliverables are sent. And then that's it. And then we try to maintain that relationship. So we'll reach out, 6 months out and say, hey, how did test go? Are you, were you satisfied with your service? Was there anything that we could do better? Is there anything you'd like to see from a deliverable process, or delivery that you'd like to see in another pen test that you have maybe in the future or a different service? And I think that tends to just create an ecosystem of general feedback and bettering of us as an entity and understanding the expectations of the market. So
Yeah, really cool that on the back end of that you have the feedback loops that help you innovate and continue to develop products that work. Because but my follow-up question to that was if somebody opts in, right, from that top end, they found you, they've engaged with your content, they're digging the vibes, they come through,
yep,
they find out that there's not a fit, and it could be for a number of different reasons. Let's just say
yeah,
hypothetically not ready at the moment, but might be in the future.
yep.
There's a follow-up part there too that I think a lot of businesses
Yep.
struggle with. What are you doing to kind of address that nurture part of your campaigning?
Got it. So yeah, there are certain marketing tools and in use of, I guess I don't want to go off too much, but from an AI perspective, retargeting is a big thing, right? If somebody, just like you said, left off at a certain page that they went to, or let's say in an engaging, they said, hey, this is a specific topic we want to go into. If I start to see trends in terms of, from a leadership perspective, that people are tending to go to, or whether it be OT or, for example, the Kubernetes example I brought in, we then send, our individuals to go research, or someone supposed to go research, and begin training in a specific niche, right? And so that way, let's say a couple months down the line, we're proficient in that sense, we can start to offer those services, right? And so, we're not going to offer something that we don't have extreme proficiency or expert levels of proficiency through. And as a whole, education is something that's at the forefront of our organization. We train, everybody trains every day. We share ideas, we have collabs, we have cohorts, we internally, we're just, we're all about evolving and ensuring that we can meet the demands of a new market. So,
Okay, and the other thing that I picked up on, Alexander, was the quick turnaround after discovery. There's something really magical about being able to get the right things to the right people efficiently. Is that like a
right.
manual process because you are like a part of being like, or you're involved in that, or do you have some sort of automations or tools that help with that follow-up?
Yeah, so when we have scaling in terms of like overall, like let's say if client has 5,000 assets, or client has 10,000 assets, 20, whatever it be, we have general kind of price ranges, as a whole. For us, it's not about, there's no fluff. These are very raw prices. It's based on level of effort. If we think something will take 2 hours, we're going to charge you 2 hours. If we think something will take, 2, 3 weeks, we'll let you know, on the front end. That's it. And everything is very price fixed. So, what we give you is what we give you, and that's it. Sometimes, unfortunately, people have seen in the past, in other industries and other entities, especially where you start a test and then, hey, halfway through, hey, you got to pay this in order to keep going with the test, right? So we're not about that. We're just very straightforward. It's like, hey, start on this date, end on this date. And we also offer, kind of a split where you can do a deposit in the beginning, and to bring, from a leverage perspective, because oftentimes you see, unfortunately, people don't like to talk about it. You see sometimes where people, they just either fall on hard times or they just can't pay, right? So we're all about transparency, what I mean? And one of our biggest taglines is, cybersecurity for all, right? A firm for all. And so we want to ensure that, if let's say you go to entity X and you get a quote for let's say two web apps and it ends up being something like, like $30,000, something, extremely big. Um, but you have an audit that's coming up and you could lose your certification. You can come to us and we can figure something out, on our side of the fence, and figure out exactly how many hours does it actually take to execute what you need to execute while also adhering to those requirements as well to ensure high quality, maybe just a pen test or a 30 malicious exercise, while also, being budget friendly in that sense too. Naturally, if someone has like 100 grand asset, that's it can't be something like it's like, $5 or something. But I wish the world could work like that. But
Right.
yeah, we're pragmatic in our approach to pricing. So, but yeah, just like you said, the quick turnaround is huge. And I think also what we also have for our chat is you're able to actually talk directly to an expert pretty much instantaneously. They get, I guess without in short words, sent notifications that a customer does want to talk with an expert, and then they can get that conversation right there. So it's just like that, in terms of getting access to somebody to have those conversations with them.
Yeah, that's really powerful to be able to have instant access to a person who can actually answer your questions. I think that's one common thread across all of the different verticals or industries that we've talked to is that um, the having a human being that you can talk to very quickly and easily is or leads to a higher customer satisfaction, which then kind of lends to a remarkable experience with your business and therefore more referrals because people are talking about you. But
But
when it comes to the practical application of that, are there any challenges that are kind of posed in terms of like the team or the necessity to have some other tools there as well, like FAQs or a chat bot or something like that? Like,
yeah,
have you dabbled in that
yeah,
arena at all?
yeah. So there's so in our query chat, there is integration of some AI. I'll say that. In terms of FAQs, I've placed the most common questions I've seen customers ask and that I've seen asked from an industry perspective
Mhm.
on our site as well. So you can go to our site, cageokami.com/FAQs. And there's a good like set of tenors full of like, hey, what's a pen test? What is the expectation in terms of like how long an engagement is? Why would I want a pen test? So things like that that often are asked, maybe internal to the self before actually reaching out or seeking out. Oftentimes people will go towards getting a pen test because somebody says you need to get a pen test or there's audit involved or it's just an requirement. Let's say somebody else, maybe a sister company got breached and they're saying, hey, how can we, preempt this? And, it's more kind of like exercise, right? Going to the gym or just generally walking or anything. There's varying levels of, um, I guess, energy that can be expended when trying to secure a network. And I think that like we need as a community, as a culture, to put more emphasis on pen testing as being something on the forefront. Naturally, cybersecurity insurance, things like that are nice to have, right? But and then having a blue team may be nice, but maybe expensive, right? But to be able to have, somebody come in and say, "Hey, these are your vulnerabilities outright," at least what can be seen from an external perspective with an unobtrusive lens. I think that there's significant value in that. Regardless of the cost. I mean, but naturally, that budgeting is going to affect, the type of services and longevity of those programs. But it's just like a doctor visit, right? You go in, it doesn't have to be painful. It's about understanding, what gaps can be filled and what can be put into future planning to subvert potential. Common weaknesses are the biggest thing when it comes to pen testing. They get exploited. So if you can get ahead of that by something like this, I mean, it's a no brainer. So, but yeah, in terms of tools, yeah, chatbots, FAQs are huge. General blog articles about, current trends in the industry. White papers are also integrated into our site, for example. Just so, for example, the DBIR is also referenced in our site as well in terms of Verizon's call to action in terms of about 74-ish% of incidents that have happened recently are a result of social engineering or human element. So that's something huge that people need to be aware of. It's common across the board when it comes to so a lot of times people will either get into a compromising position and not end up in a breach, or they may actually be breached. So a lot of times we don't see that gray area, so there's just things to think about.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of the human element of this is like, yeah, we can do a lot of like front end kind of level one support, troubleshooting, guidance, Q&A, that sort of thing. But then when it comes
Right.
time for a human to intervene and the topic is a little bit more challenging, then you put somebody there that can, um, manage that
Exactly.
has some level of expertise so that you can maintain both efficiency, and effectiveness, because that's a big thing, right? And
Correct.
in growing your business, there's if you're not growing, you're shrinking, and at
Exactly.
at some
Sure.
point, all of the customers that you have are may or may not be customers in the future, and so there's this like need
Right.
to keep growing. So I guess, from that
Hmm.
lens, Alexander, what are some of the big goals that you guys have on the horizon? What are you aiming at? What's maybe some key revenue milestones that you're targeting,
Yeah.
and what's your approach to kind of achieving that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, everybody wants to be a millionaire, so I hope. And my thing is, I
Amen.
want to make
Amen.
sure that my teams are well taken care of. And the biggest thing is, money is money, but however, work-life balance is key. And I think that to be able to continue to provide that and be very, conscientious of internal goals, so sometimes team members want to be more involved with physical engagement. So expanding their horizons there by trying to attract those type of customers would be something to look at. OT is a big thing too that's been mentioned, and some people are taking training on that right now, and so that's something once again to look forward to as well there. But yeah, just muscles, I'd love to make, for us, aggregately maybe about, a million in the next like 5 years, 10 years, who knows? But I think that we don't know where the market's going to go. We don't know what the needs will be, but we'll be ready to, attack those, as they come. And I think that um, it's more so ensuring, yeah, it comes down to goals. You just, from a personal perspective, for me, this business is about fostering the growth of the individual, while still catering to a market that heavily needs it, right?
Mm.
Um, there's also other topics that, I guess are not part of this conversation, but as a whole, there is specialists out there. There are um, heavily skilled individuals. It's just, I think the market needs to just take a chance to give them a chance, at the end of the day, and just understand that, everyone is growing, and that this field is perpetually moving, and um, a static setup is not going to work, in terms of defending against these more advanced attackers. And by the day, the same tools that we're using to defend, from a pen testing and red teaming perspective, are the same thing the attackers are using. And so they're finding just different ways and more efficient ways with less rules. They don't care about whether it's midnight or 5 a.m. They're coming for you. And for us, it's, we're on a schedule, right? It's, hey, you can pen test during these hours, these are the ROE. You can only conduct these specific scans during this time. You can only do manual pen testing, or you can only breach this building during this time. They don't care. They're jumping the fence, so it's, I think there just needs to be more attention and care, in terms of how serious this is, in terms of ensuring these checkups as a whole. Do you want to go?
Yeah, I'm so present to that. The fact that the bad guys don't follow the rules. We may have put
Right.
them in place for the,
That's
the
over.
average folk, but they're being disregarded by the people who are up to nefarious activities. So there's this
Right.
need for us to be a lot more proactive, and I'm totally with you there. So crossing that kind of six-figure to seven-figure barrier, what sorts of challenges do you see in front of you that you're looking to overcome to achieve that outcome?
Yeah, I think just number of customers, and just, it's going to take brand awareness and proving ourselves in the industry, regardless of, for example, me having 20 years, or my employees or associates, they, a lot of times they have similar backgrounds effectively. It's a very small niche group of individuals that are involved. Um, yeah, it's, we don't know the entire world. That'd be amazing to have that many customers, but at the same time, you have to scale to meet that need, right?
Right.
So it's gonna take, I think, excessive brand awareness, and maybe even offering, for example, the free pen test for people to just get just to see, what we're about, and then, give us a chance there, and then, let the market, make a decision on, whether they want to engage or not, as a whole. I know our quality of work, and I know what we do, and I stand by it. And I've had, tons of good customer feedback and reactions, and various reviews to back that up. But at the end of the day, I can't force anybody to get a pen test. I can't force anybody to engage in an audit. It It's going to be up to them, and rightfully so, right? This is business at the end of the day, and so it's gonna, yeah, be incumbent on us to, further our marketing through various mechanisms. I think AI is great to some degrees. It's not fully mature yet. I know it's a very controversial topic, but I think that as a whole, when in terms of addressing the masses, I think there are some benefits to using it as a way to make research more efficient and as a
Hmm.
business intelligence. I just think that, like, you don't want a situation where AI is being used for like a gray area, like spam or like spamming customers, or the kind of years of cold approaching, and those are very controversial rules too. I think are kind of over. I think we're kind of in a strange or dangerous situation still, where if somebody randomly calls you, you don't pick up most likely. If someone randomly emails you, most likely, if you see, hey, user, in tags and the template hasn't completed, you're automatically going to delete it. You know what I mean? So, I think from a security awareness perspective, those are great practices, from a phishing training perspective, but from a business perspective, they can be quite daunting to deal with. It's, yeah, I mean, that's it. You just have to trust the market. And I think that we're gonna use a combination of AI, manual selling approaches, and just our content as a whole, whether it be through LinkedIn or other mechanisms like YouTube, for example, and catering some masses. We're also thinking about doing some little educational shorts and things like that on YouTube for people who are coming up in the industry, so they can get an understanding. Because I think as a whole, there's a sales aspect to it, which is very heavy, but I think there are other parts like the education and maybe even giving back, philanthropy eventually, which in the general grand scheme of things, will need to be addressed too, and then also elicited to the market too. So um, that's just kind of where we're at.
Yeah, there's a big difference between that scrappy startup mentality of just take anything and everything, and you just elbow your way
Right.
through the crowd until somebody says yes. And then on the other side, to your point, yeah, it's one thing to have 20 years of experience and be deeply knowledgeable in a field. It's another thing for other people to know that that's true. And so
That's
here's the
exactly it.
challenge, right, that a lot of people face is um, how do I reach the people with that message without uh, coming across as arrogant or out of touch with the market or the industry, but also how do I prove that I'm an authority in this space, that I actually do know what I'm talking about without again being arrogant or going above or beyond. And the the marketing engine has been ruined by marketers, and now we're in this weird space where I don't know if you heard this, but recently I read somewhere that um, B2B businesses rely on 84% referrals for growth. That means that only
Okay.
16% of their marketing or 16% of their customers come from marketing activities. And I think that that's um,
Well,
both a just a stark realization to what we have done
yep.
as marketing people or to kind of get our message out there, but then also like that's a superpower. That's something that we can be looking at to adjust course or to create
Mhm.
something that does add value to the culture as opposed to just standing on the street corner and yelling at people that you're the
Right.
best at what you do.
Right.
That's what I liken it to.
Right.
I have this analogy I like to share with people. It's like you can go in your kitchen and you can bake a pie, and it can be the best pie in the entire world, but nobody knows
Right.
that it's there. So now you got to go. You
Exactly.
could you could elevate this, right? You could put it on your windowsill, and people walking by your window are going to know that it's there, but you're limited, right? So you could take
Right.
this to town square, and you can shout at all the people running around. And I think that's what most people get as far as that, to say, "Hey, listen, my pie's the best pie ever." But you're missing
Right.
a big chunk of this. Where's the packaging? Where's the box? Where's the, you
Exactly.
know what I mean? Where's
Mhm.
the brand? Where's the reputation? Where's the
Right.
information about the pie? And none of that
Right.
exists. So you might be selling a poison pie and we don't know. So now you need,
Exactly.
right? Now you need to take that pie and you need to put it in a box. You need to put that box on a shelf where people are actually looking for pie, and now you have a
Right.
chance to do something meaningful with what you're doing. And I get that you kind of see that, but as a
Hmm.
general point to prove or to just establish like how difficult this whole thing is, that's what we're up
You know,
against is we have to put
oh yeah,
ourselves out there and let the world know that we exist, and then hope that people recognize that that's the message that we're sending. So kudos to
absolutely.
you for being as dedicated to the cause as you are and exploring some of these really powerful tools like, educational content or the like blog posting and things like that. I think that adds a lot of value to the people that are looking for you. So as we kind of
I
reach a
appreciate it.
close of our conversation here, Alex, I wonder if we can look forward to some of the things that are kind of in the future for the industry. Is there anything particularly
Yeah.
in terms of trends or upcoming things that you're excited about that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I mean, just as AI in development has come to fruition, to agree, I think that, we're seeing a lot of courses on AI hacking and things like that that are starting to come up. Jason Haddix, yeah, just a shout out to him, has a course that's out there, the red, blue, purple hacking that, hopefully I'd like to take, to help expand our side of the business there. I think that OT is huge. I think, CISA has recently, so tied to the Department of Homeland Security, for those who are unfamiliar, is starting to put out mandates in terms of compliance when it comes to having to go through pen tests, security audits, things like that. So I think that that's going to be huge, and I think that, yeah, our critical infrastructure is something that is kind of underrated in terms of being, testing. I mean, things like, power plants, water distribution centers, things like that. Like, if those go down, it's a big issue, right? But the thing is that people are only typically, of concern of that when it's on the news, right? Or hey, I turn on my faucet and I can't get water, right? But these are, control centers that need constant testing, that need, I guess, more players in the industry. A lot of times it's very, very niche, and very understandably so, right? You don't want, there's somebody who has like maybe no experience going in there and then like potentially, DOSing or in sense of DOS, denial of service, creating a disruption to some of these services. Like, let's say, you can cause outages for neighborhoods since there's a power, things like that. So, very dangerous territory. You do need a guided hand in those spaces. But those are things that, we're looking forward to, and we're already getting advanced in terms of training on. I think also wireless. I think is kind of like red herring. I think that like overall, it'd be nice to see a return to that because a lot of times people just still, you go to a doctor's office and it's like, yes, like these default credentials are just outright. People can, we're dealing with potentially, from a medical perspective, HIPAA data, right? Where people's first names, last names, social security numbers being inputted into forms. These things could potentially be intercepted, right? But oftentimes, it's just seen as kind of a tache as opposed to a critical point. So I think focus on getting those type of assessments back in line will be very, very I guess not fruitful is not the right word, but I think important, I guess, would be for entities to consider. So those three elements, effectively AI, OT, and wireless, I think we should take some step back. And also from B2B perspective, using like you had mentioned, Kubernetes, containerization, tests like that should also be in the forefront. We're all moving to cloud. Some people are kind of in the in-between hybrid environment. So cloud penetration testing, it can be a sticky situation from a rules perspective, but definitely something to consider. And we've already, some of us are enrolled in courses already for that. So I think that these are the kind of the frontiers that we need to go look at.
Yeah, it sounds really exciting. There's a ton of opportunity to have on both fronts, and I guess this is one of those infinite games where there's always going to be somebody, the bad guys out there that are up to it, trying to take things down, and then the good guys out there trying to
Rich.
keep the wall up. And so,
Mhm.
I realize, utopia is maybe not the outcome. However, creating a safer internet for us all um is a marked contribution to the whole culture. So really cool that that's what
Absolutely.
you're up to, man. In closing, if there was somebody else that's kind of out there up to it, trying to build something for themselves and they're facing some struggles or some challenges, what sort of advice might you offer somebody like that?
Got it. So typically I would say think of like going to an intersection. You see two gas stations and they have the exact same, let's say Exxon or BP and BP, right? Um, at some point one came first, most likely, right? Just in terms of general costs, things like that. But the other one would not have started if they had given up. So no matter what pushed through, it is going to be extremely difficult, 100%. There's no way to make light of words of it. But once you have conviction and you have dedication to your brand and your cause, I would say first thing, find your brand first. Find out what you're about, what your core concepts are, what your ethos is, what you want to bring to customers, and why they should choose you. Once you find these things, um, start to do some research. There's tons of free resources, and YouTube is a great place. Even blogs like this, for example, I have blogs and podcasts such as these. are good ways to take a look at what other people have been experiencing and use those core concepts to evolve your own business. And all it takes is the first customer. Once you can do a specific business process all the way through, whether it be an actual sale or consulting, also use your ace. Is I think is what I've been told a long time ago. Is that what are you good at? What is your niche, right? So if let's say like you're really really good, like you said, for example, with baking pies, right? So make 100 pies, right? And sit down and say what are some of the issues with some of these, and determine how we can create a consistent approach that's replicable and actually is cost effective, right? And start there. And then have other people give some pies out, see how people, try to see if you can find a way for people to trust your pies to begin with, right? That's also an actual concept you got to deal with. Once you start to just kind of micro out, maybe even taking a classic example, looking at going to the grocery store, right? And you see these shelves and you have like some bread, right? And different bread have different brands, right? So what is it that took an individual from actually building that actual piece of bread or that loaf of bread and putting it into the store? If you can master those core concepts across the board, so calling different vendors, saying, hey, what are the sponsorships and relationships we can develop? How much time do I have on those shelves? All of these things can be replicated in different industries, across the board, whether it be cyber or manufacturing in this case. And that's it. And all you need is a one win. You get one win. That is that sale, right? And just don't stop. That is the biggest thing. No matter how hard things get, no matter there can be days, days, months, years where you're low. You just need that one big gig, right? That'll do it. And so just never stop. And we've all been through it, and that's why we're here. We're here to share our knowledge and pains, and hopefully help the community at large. So that's it. That'd be my biggest takeaway.
Really powerful advice, man. You've been very generous with your time and your wisdom, and on behalf of anybody watching and listening, I'm very grateful for that. If somebody wanted
I
to
appreciate it.
reach out to pick your brain further or perhaps work with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so cageokami.com. So Kage Okami, OKAMI.com/contact-us. There's a calendar there, and you can just schedule times free. So just feel free to, you know, hit me up. I'm typically the first contact there. Otherwise, it'll go to a different operator. But overall, yeah, if it's something as simple as, hey, I have this concept that from a testing perspective that we need some help with, or hey, I'm trying to develop this specific application. What are some things I need to be watching out for? That's something that we do offer for free. Just to help the industry as a whole, and then also if there's something where we could be a good fit for you, you're right in the same place, so you might as well you know go ahead and engage from there. So it's a mutual benefit, and we get to learn more about the industry there too, and then maybe help somebody out, make their day brighter. So it's a win-win across the board. So that's probably the best way to reach out.
Love it. Wonderful. We'll make sure to link to that in the show notes for anybody watching or listening who wants to get in touch with you. That's where they can go to do that. And on that note, if you wanted to reach out to me and my team for any of your marketing or AI needs, you can visit nextgengrowth.com. Otherwise, that's it for this episode. Thanks for joining us for this conversation, and I will see you in the next.